Welcome. If this is your first time here, I'm Agatha. Welcome to this July collective reading where I'll be pulling some cards for us to feel into what the energy of July is asking of us and asking us to observe, listen to, remember. So, the way I like to do my readings is to allow you to drop in just for a couple of breaths. So as you're receiving these words, you feel grounded, that you're in your body. So if it feels comfortable, you can close down the eyes to receive these 3 breaths. Inhaling deep into the belly and letting a full exhale out the mouth. Taking another 2 breaths like this, full breath in. Full exhale out. And your final breath, allowing you to expand into the here and now. And your exhale, releasing what doesn't need to be here in this moment. So as we tune into the energy of July, we begin to ask the cards, what do we as a collective need to understand, perceive differently? What is it that is at the forefront for us to really connect to this month and to remember? Okay, beautiful cards. So we got the High Priestess, Beauty, the 2 of Swords, and the 3 of Wands. And so before I pulled these 3 cards, I actually also pulled for us an oracle from the Reclaim Oracle, and we got Desire. Okay. And for me, the reading, these 3 cards that I've pulled around High Priestess, 2 of Swords, 3 of Wands, is really about tuning into what our desire is. What it is that is calling to us from our gut. That feeling that says this feels right or this feels wrong. Okay. High Priestess is a calling towards your deepest knowing, your deepest desires, your deepest understanding of what is true for you. And so sometimes when we are asked to move from this place of intuition or knowing or desire, or that place that already knows, because we all already know what is limiting us, what is also just stopping us from moving in this direction, is the mind. Okay, so 2 of Swords. And the mind is a trickster. It likes to keep us in our boxes. It likes to keep us in the things that we've deemed real and true. But sometimes the things that we've deemed real and true are just constructs. And so what the 2 of Swords is asking of us in July is really to put down these constructs, okay? To no longer create a barrier of entry into the desire, the intuition. And I love that this 2 of Swords specifically has this moon behind the swords. This moon, this intuition, this connection to feminine desire. How can we stop being the barrier to entry of our own desire? How are we limiting ourselves from walking our deepest and truest path, our path of higher self, of the path that we know is ours to walk down, because we feel shame, we feel not good enough, we feel, who am I to walk down that path? People will judge me. We create these constructs and these elements of limitation that inevitably stop us in our track, stop us along the way of what is meant for us. And so this month, July, is really about connecting to your desire, is really about getting true and knowing, okay, what is actually the desire of others? Sometimes this can happen as well, where we begin to follow a path because we think it's the right thing to do, or it's been set as an expectation of what to do. But actually, what is it that you truly desire? And I can give a really great example of being a tarot reader. This is something I desire truly and deeply, and it is something that I feel is my path. And oftentimes there is the voice in the head that limits from expanding, from moving towards that true desire. And so this month, for all of us, and specifically if you're resonating with what I'm saying, I really want you to tune into what it is that you desire, even if, or especially if, there was no judgment, no deeper expectation from those around you. There was no constriction on finances. There was no, responsibilities to come to. And dreaming is free. Tuning into our desire is free. And so this should be something that comes to you without hesitation. And so when I see the Three of Wands, I also feel like it's the fairy dust on this situation of like, yeah, you can dream again. You can feel into your desires. You can explore that weird and wonderful path that is pulling and calling your name. And it doesn't need to be shrouded in guilt or shame or expectation, especially if you're also stepping into something new. Okay, this is coming through as like, don't expect yourself to be number one on day one. Okay, don't expect yourself to be the best on day one and therefore stop on day one. Okay, there might be some discomfort that comes from trying something new, but that ultimately you're like, oh, that was kind of fun. I didn't really know what I was doing. And be in that space of exploration. Be in that space of curiosity. Be in that space of, I deserve this. Okay? So this is what's coming through for us. High Priestess is really about connecting to that piece of yourself that is whispering your path. Okay? So see if you can tune into that space of liminality as well, where things begin to get quiet. And if the mind is very loud, I really encourage you to find practices that will begin to soften the mind, soften the noise. So it could be, like myself, I really love yoga to soften the noise of the mind, getting out in nature, going for a beautiful walk out in nature. These are the things that connect you to that higher self, to that intuition. Okay, so really encouraging you around that. And then when we think about desire, I really want you to start noticing for yourself when there is that thing of like, even when you think of jealousy as well. So when you see someone else have the thing that you might desire, note that down, note that feeling down, because there's something there that is like, that feels aligned to me. Okay, that feels like something I would want for myself. And just be careful with that on the comparison piece. But if it's coming from your gut of like, wow, I don't know, I really would love to own a villa in Spain. That's one of my desires. Um, and use that. Use that energy that you're feeling through your day. So keep a journal this month of desires that are popping up, because sometimes we're so in our everydayness that we don't allow ourselves to dream, to tune into those bigger pieces that are going to guide us towards our next path, our next steps, our next iteration of self. Okay, I want to read to you from the booklet on Reclaim Oracle, and it says, desire is the raw material, the itch in my heart. It is the spark that fuels the will. It's the pure dream born of my gut, begging to be seen. It is the fruit of my soul, forever expanding. But a wounded soul produces oddities. I am the judge of my own desire, the sole creator and the executor of my destiny. I really think these words of the wounded soul produces oddities is really important to take note of. That is the Two of Swords that's coming up for us here. Okay, the wounds that we carry that don't allow us to dive into our deepest desires. So this month, I really encourage you to start listening to those pulls, to the itch in your heart, to the pull of the gut, and to notice that you too can walk this path, and that sometimes the only barrier is your mind and yourself. If this has resonated, if you got something out of this, I really appreciate comments, just to know that it's landing in your hearts and in your bodies. And I also want to invite you to download a freebie I've got coming up on July 27th. It's going to take you behind the scenes of my own tarot practice. So I'm going to be sharing 5 days of my daily tarot practice. So you'll see, I guess, how I work with it, how I kind of get to the root of a definition of a card as it presents itself in my day. And along that, you'll also get journal prompts and a way of working with that specific card. So whatever comes up in those 5 days in your life. So if you're curious about tarot, or you've ever kind of wondered, oh, how can I start? What is the etiquette around tarot? This would be a really beautiful offering for you. I'll leave the link in the comments below. I really thank you for being here, and I hope you have a stupendous and tremendous and beautiful July ahead. Lots of love.